Well, I would say Benavidez, but he's too, that weight class is too high for him. So, where he's at now is great.
David, do you think Crawford will fight you if he beats Canelo?
Nah, I wouldn't fight Crawford. I'm at 175.
And Terence Crawford.
No.
Ready for that fight. Maybe planning on vacating the belt.
No.
Coach Brian Bullmac McIntyre made headlines after the fight when asked about a potential matchup between Terence Crawford and David Benavidez. Bullmac immediately rejected the idea, saying Crawford doesn't need a fight like that.
Just sit for a minute and then, just like I said, get back in the gym and do our thing.
Honest? Absolutely.
He also reminded fans that sparring with Boots Ennis wouldn't help Canelo, as Crawford is on a completely different level.
Performance prove about the Ennis sparring. You guys were largely
I told you
silent
it don't
about
make no difference. Didn't I say it? I said that don't mean shit. I don't give a damn about that.
Yeah.
I said that, didn't I?
Yeah,
in one of those interviews, I said that. Don't mean shit, because he's no Bud Crawford. I'm not taking nothing from Ennis, Bozy, them over there, them my guys. Shit, but bringing in that, which is good for Canelo, but it didn't do no good.
The discussion actually began with Benavidez himself, just hours after Crawford's historic win, when he tweeted congratulations for becoming the first fighter to be undisputed in 3 divisions and also praised Canelo, hinting at what could come next. He asked a question that immediately ignited boxing Twitter: can Benavidez still make 168 pounds? Greg Hackett later addressed the talk of a Crawford versus Benavidez fight, saying it wasn't a serious matchup and seemed driven more by hype and money than reality. He emphasized that Crawford doesn't need Benavidez to validate his career and noted that Benavidez would struggle cutting down to 168 after moving up to 175.
And they think the money is going to keep getting him out there. That fight is pointless. The fight is pointless because nobody ever talked about that fight until now. And then I don't feel like Bud needs a Benavidez. And then that would mean Benavidez would have to go into a different body and bring himself back down to 68 when he's already getting settled.
Hackett explained that the Crawford-Benavidez talk seemed mostly manufactured, saying it was more about Benavidez showing his promotional power than an actual fight being planned. He also cautioned that boxing needs to focus on meaningful matchups, not just hype.
Some tough tasks in front of him that he want to conquer before even talking like that. I don't even think he want to talk like that because there's really no point. He wanted the Canelo fight because Canelo was the man at 68 and he was at 68. I don't think he cared about fighting Bud, and I don't think Bud cared about fighting Benavidez. That's just Turkey trying to pull rank. So Turkey trying to show him he got it.
A major storyline before the fight was whether Crawford could officially add another weight class to his achievements. Many commentators called him a 4-division world champion, but technically he wasn't. Analysts often questioned if Crawford's resume truly justified the hype, noting he hadn't faced enough top-tier opponents or fully proven himself at the elite level.
4 greatest fighters of all time. Do you understand how improbable this is? I thought Bud had no chance. I lost 20 grand. Not only is Terence Crawford on my Mount Rushmore, like I said, if he were to win, because the probability of him winning against all the odds, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it.
The narrative changed after this historic fight. Crawford moved up in weight and dismantled one of the sport's most accomplished champions, forcing even his toughest critics to reconsider their views. Analysts captured that shift perfectly, marking a moment that permanently elevated Crawford's legacy.
That guy, he can face anybody in history and be a problem. Him right there. Not only that, I think this cements the fact that everybody avoided him. This right here answers everything. Not only is Terence Bud Crawford on my Mount Rushmore, but everybody avoided him. And that sheds more light on how he beat.
By moving up to 168 pounds and capturing all 4 major belts, Crawford became the first male boxer in history to be undisputed in 3 separate divisions, a milestone no one had ever reached. So, even if the 4-division undisputed label wasn't accurate, his achievement was historic on its own. During the post-fight press conference after his unanimous decision loss, Canelo Alvarez surprised everyone by giving Crawford major credit, openly saying he believed Crawford was the better fighter.
Fight between yourself and Floyd Mayweather Jr. and tonight's bout with Terence Bud Crawford, if you can.
No, I think Crawford is way better than...
During the Crawford versus Canelo fight, veteran boxing journalist Dan Rafael shared his perspective, noting that while Canelo started strong and took the early rounds, Crawford ultimately left the biggest impression, displaying the skill and composure to take control as the fight progressed.
I thought it was close. I had Canelo ahead in the early going, but I thought Crawford did an amazing job closing that fight down in the last few rounds, where he really started to back the supposed bigger guy up, although for me, they looked about the same size. But
Dan Rafael highlighted the historical significance of Crawford's win, saying it was the fight Crawford had long dreamed of and worked tirelessly to achieve. He noted that Crawford rarely had chances to face naturally bigger opponents, as many doubted such a matchup was even possible.
He dreamt this fight. He willed it to happen. A lot of people, not me, but a lot of people laughed at him and said, forget about it, no chance against a bigger guy like that. To Canelo, because everybody who has ever read me, followed me, listened to me knows I love Canelo. I think he's one of the greats of all time. I think you can make a really good argument that he's the greatest Mexican of all time, even more than Chavez. That said, he is in decline. He's been in decline for the last few years. He hasn't been what we've seen him at his best since he beat Caleb Plant, that Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Sanders time frame. And, even though he's winning fights, the knockouts haven't happened. He's gotten tired in the later part of the fights. And it's just common, it's the oldest saying.
Jen Zittel, a respected boxing writer and ringside analyst, commented on how Crawford's reputation soared after his win over Canelo Alvarez. Zittel admitted he had recognized Crawford's elite talent and seen him as a top pound-for-pound fighter since 2017, but hadn't fully considered him among the sport's all-time legends until now.
Crawford, #1 pound for pound back in 2017. I always acknowledged him as the best counterpuncher in the game, one of the great counterpunchers, but I didn't see him as Sugar Ray Leonard, Floyd Mayweather, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson. I didn't see him as that. I saw him as the tier of greats right below that. Oscar, Shane, Mike McCallum, guys like that. And it turns out, no, he's with the...
Zittel analyzed Crawford's technical performance against Canelo, noting how he absorbed Canelo's power with ease and displayed remarkable punch resistance for the weight class. He explained that Canelo lost his rhythm as Crawford controlled the fight, using his jab effectively in the 3rd and 4th rounds to dictate the pace.
Crawford, I know Crawford felt it, but he had good punch resistance. He came up in weight beautifully, and then as time went on, his jab and his length, around that 3rd and 4th round, really started to give Canelo fits. And then, #1, his bread and butter, his gift. Yes, he's got great tactics, great distance control, efficient footwork. He doesn't, and he took the air out of the ball.
From the start, it was clear Canelo Alvarez would rely on his size, experience, and power. Observers noted that despite his super middleweight strength, his championship experience gave him an edge in high-pressure moments. After his unanimous loss to Terence Crawford, Canelo took to Instagram, accepting the defeat with humility while reflecting proudly on his career. He acknowledged the sacrifices made by his team, expressed gratitude to his family and millions of fans, and thanked his wife Fernanda for her support throughout the process. Meanwhile, Crawford made a striking impression during the post-fight press conference by defiantly flipping off and mocking a reporter who had previously criticized him. The moment went beyond theatrics. It was Crawford asserting control over his narrative and confronting the media scrutiny he had faced throughout his career.
Champion, the first ever in the 2, 3, or 4 belt era, and you became the 2nd undisputed champion in 3 weight classes when there was only 1 champion back in 1938 with Henry Armstrong. That's a lot of stuff.
You hear that?
Years ago, boxing insiders and the media often labeled Crawford as boring or someone who only fought lesser-known opponents. In this press conference, those criticisms were silenced as he stood on the sport's biggest stage, proving his talent and showing the critics they had been wrong.
All of it. It all goes hand in hand.
Can you describe what it all means to you to have, you just made like a whole resume of stuff tonight.
means a lot to me because, you know, anybody can be a nobody, like I said, you know, and that's all they say I've been fighting is nobodies. So what?
Canelo entered the fight as the undisputed champion, with everything at stake, not just his belts, but his legacy. A loss would mean leaving the ring without the status that had defined him. That's exactly what happened, as Crawford won by unanimous decision, claiming the undisputed super middleweight championship. Canelo lost all his belts in the division and the recognition of being undisputed, at least for now. Shortly after Crawford's historic win, Australian cruiserweight world champion Jaya Bhatia expressed admiration, saying he had given the fight to Crawford and viewed the decision as decisive and undisputed.
I thought it was convincingly enough, you know, I thought he won, so.
He reflected on Crawford's growing legacy, noting that despite being relatively new on the scene, the Nebraska star has firmly earned his place among the sport's all-time greats. Bhatia emphasized that Crawford commands respect across the boxing world and that his name is now permanently part of boxing history.
Too smart. Hey, what a technician.
Are you shocked or not?
Not at all. Not at all. That's how I pictured the fight going. Straight up. I pictured the fight going that way. Yeah, impressive. You know what I mean? Coming up from all those weight divisions. Hit and don't get hit. That's the aim of the game. So everyone puts him differently in their list, but he's in everyone's list. You know what I mean? He's deserved his respect. He's one of the greats. And that Crawford name, that last name, that's written down in history.
However, defeating Canelo required more than skill power also played a key role. Early observations showed that when Canelo landed clean shots, especially to the body or in close quarters, they had an impact. Former heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis shared his thoughts on the Crawford versus Canelo fight, praising it overall but expressing some disappointment in Canelo's performance. Lewis expected Alvarez to throw more punches with greater urgency and noted that historically, Canelo struggles against slick, mobile fighters like Crawford.
I was hoping that there was more action coming from Canelo. You know, I'm used to Canelo fighting that way all the time. You know, he tried his best. You know, he always has trouble against movers. I was really expecting them to be more punches, more movement by Canelo. Yeah, I mean, it was a situation where he's, you know, Terence Crawford's a tactician, and he throws combinations and he moves. And then, you know, if you try and exchange with him, he's gone already. So you got to be fast. You got to.
Lennox Lewis commented on Canelo Alvarez's loss to Terence Crawford, noting that while Canelo fought in his usual style, it wasn't enough. He explained that Crawford's speed, reflexes, and defensive skills made it extremely difficult for Canelo to land clean shots or take control of the fight.
Like about many times, and I thought that this time he just boxed like he always boxes. And then I felt he couldn't really do nothing against Terence Crawford because Terence Crawford was too quick, too elusive. You know, anybody would find trouble with him, but Canelo couldn't find him. For Canelo to win a round, I say he won about 3 rounds in that fight. I was actually amazed at the way how Terence Crawford moved and, you know, never got hit. And threw combinations because that's what you're supposed to do, throw combinations. So he threw combinations. He wasn't trying to knock out Canelo, but he definitely was throwing a...
For most viewers, Crawford's win wasn't about overpowering Canelo, but about his speed, timing, and ring intelligence. He made Canelo miss, forced him into awkward positions, and controlled the fight's rhythm. While Canelo landed some hard shots, they mostly came when Crawford allowed him close, and those opportunities were minimal. Physically, Canelo was in shape, but Crawford's mastery was undeniable. Former unified welterweight champion Keith Thurman called Crawford's performance a true boxing clinic, praising it as a demonstration of perfect fundamentals, timing and composure at the highest level.
Crawford Canelo, shout outs to Crawford. You did it, boy. You did it. For those who still aren't quite sure what they witnessed last night, I'm gonna let you know that you witnessed what is called a notorious boxing clinic. This is everything.
He praised Crawford for effectively countering Canelo's power and pace, while controlling the distance from start to finish, something few thought possible at super middleweight.
The notorious hit and don't get hit. That's boxing 101, people. It's actually the definition of boxing. For those who don't know the definition of boxing, it's to hit and not get hit. It's almost like a game of tag, to simplify it for you folks, all right? And yes, Crawford was tagging him. Not just with the jab, moving, but he was able to do another key factor.
Crawford's victory didn't just change the title holders. It reshaped the narrative of who truly rules the super middleweight division and raised questions about Canelo's future at 34. After decades of grueling battles, this loss could mark a turning point. Whether he returns at a new weight or seeks a rematch, he now faces the reality that a sharp, undefeated, and dynamic challenger outboxed him on one of boxing's biggest stages. When asked about Canelo's power at super middleweight, Crawford downplayed concerns, saying he had faced heavy hitters throughout his career and felt confident handling them, including Canelo.
Have you been hit by anybody that strong before?
I've been hit harder.
No, in a real fight, not a sparring.
In a real fight. Not Avanesian, but Mean Machine hit harder than Canelo, to me. To be honest.
Timothy Bradley Jr. spoke candidly about the stakes of Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford, emphasizing that it wasn't just a high-profile fight, but a defining moment for Canelo's place in boxing history. He noted that losing to Crawford, who had moved up several weight classes for the challenge, could impact Canelo's reputation as a standard-bearer for Mexican boxing.
Against Crawford, what people gonna say? He lost to a smaller guy. Where's gonna put him amongst all the Mexican, greats? Where's that gonna put him? Oh, he lost to a smaller guy in Crawford. You know what I'm saying? Most skillful guy on the planet. They don't look good, right? So I think this fight is harder on his career than a Benavidez loss. Way harder. Way more to lose.
Terrence "Bug" Crawford didn't just win, he made history against all odds and doubters. Facing Canelo Alvarez, he proved that greatness knows no weight limit. Fights like this showcase why boxing is the sweet science, with skill, heart, and legacy all on display. After witnessing this epic showdown, where do you rank Crawford among the all-time greats? Stay connected, subscribe, and hit the bell. Boxing's next chapter is only getting bigger.